I'm Elena Torres, 44 years old, and for 14 years, I've carried the salty sting of a betrayal that capsized my sailing dreams and forced me to navigate a new course. It was the summer of 2011, a warm December afternoon in Sydney, the air thick with the scent of salt water from the harbor and the distant cry of gulls near Circular Quay, when I faced my former first mate, Commander Daniel Holt, in the cramped captain's quarters of the MV Horizon, a mid-sized vessel docked at Darling Harbour. The quarters, with its worn wooden desk, scattered nautical charts, and the faint hum of the engine room, had been my command center during the relentless 12-hour shifts that defined my early career, a place where the creak of the hull and the rhythm of the waves had fueled my passion. But that day it turned into a mutiny, where my ambitions were scuttled under the harsh glare of a porthole. I was 30 then, a skilled mariner with a gift for navigation, my proposed coastal route, featuring eco-friendly sails, a partnership with marine conservationists, and a detailed chart I'd plotted, winning a Sydney Maritime Award and catching the eye of shipping magnates, my leadership earning murmurs of a captaincy among the weathered crew who saw me as the ship's future. I joined Horizon Shipping in 2009 after certifying with the Australian Maritime College, bringing a fresh approach to a fleet stuck in outdated practices, diesel-heavy vessels, rigid schedules, a turnover rate nearing 20%. My name a quiet hope among sailors who believed I could steer a new course. But that afternoon, as I presented a detailed plan for a sustainable shipping line, highlighting reduced emissions, a collaboration with Sydney ports, and a pilot voyage I'd mapped to secure a $250,000 government grant and elevate the company's profile, Commander Holt's demeanor shifted from ally to adversary, his posture stiffening as he adjusted his cap. "You'll never captain this ship, Elena. Stick to scrubbing decks," he sneered, his voice cutting through the hum of the radio, his eyes narrowing with a mix of rivalry and dominance as he tapped my chart with his pipe. He confessed, with a cold laugh that sent a shiver through me, that he'd stolen my plan, submitting it under his name to the grant committee just days before my presentation, securing the funding and a feature in the Sydney Morning Herald that praised his visionary command. To bury me, he orchestrated my demotion with fabricated accusations, reckless navigation based on altered logbooks, insubordinate attitude from a staged argument over a course change, backed by a loyal deckhand he'd coerced, and a conveniently timed flood damage that lost my navigation notes, which I'd stored in a waterproof case that appeared soaked after a maintenance check. The shipping board, swayed by Commander Holt's 10-year tenure, his connections to a shipping tycoon who'd funded the vessel's overhaul, and my lack of allies, my notes gone, leaving me adrift, upheld his decision in 2012, reassigning me to deckhand duties, my reputation tarnished across Australia's maritime community as unreliable and overreaching, a stain that clung to me like barnacles on a hull. My partner, Sam, a kind-hearted fisherman with a love for shanties and a steady hand, supported me, but our savings dwindled under boat repairs, our dream of a seaside cottage with a view fading into the cramped reality of a flat with peeling paint, a sagging cot, and a rusty anchor that clanked through the nights. Those words, "Never captain the ship, stick to scrubbing decks," became a relentless echo, a haunting refrain that reverberated through every swab I wielded, every knot I tied, every moment I stood alone by the railing, the sound mingling with the slap of waves and the creak of ropes. I can still feel the weight of those early months after the demotion, sitting on that sagging cot in our flat, the harbor bridge visible through the window a reminder of my lost helm, as I flipped through maritime journals and job listings in the Daily Telegraph, the ink smudging my fingers with each turn of the page, my eyes burning with exhaustion after sleepless nights replaying Commander Holt's betrayal. The flat, with its thrift store furniture, a wobbly table Sam had salvaged from a dock, a chair with a torn seat he'd patched with netting, and a single window overlooking a wharf where seals barked, felt a universe away from the bridge I'd commanded, its air heavy with the lingering scent of salt and tar I'd brought home on my boots, a reminder of the life I'd lost. Sam took on extra fishing trips, hauls off Wollongong, repairs in Cronulla, his evenings spent mending nets under a flickering lantern, the scent of fish and seaweed a testament to his sacrifice, while I pieced together a fragile existence with casual gigs on ferries in Manly, boat maintenance in Bondi, and weekend shifts at a chandlery in Neutral Bay, each tied a fight to reclaim my sea legs. Every dollar a step toward survival in a city where dockside rents soared and sailing dreams fell out of reach. Our son, Luca, born in 2013 after years of hoping, grew up surrounded by sextants turned into toys, logbooks stacked beside his crib, his childish questions a tender ache. "Why don't you steer the big boat anymore, Mummy?" he'd ask, his small hands tracing the edges of my award plaque. I'd smile through the tightness in my chest, spinning tales of new voyages to sail the world. But the truth gnawed at me. Commander Holt had blacklisted me, his narrative of my instability spreading to shipping lines and ports, his influence a barrier to my command, leaving me stuck on the lower decks of a career I'd once led. Commander Holt's career thrived in the years that followed. By 2017, he'd risen to fleet manager, his name etched on awards from the Australian Maritime Safety Authority, his wealth evident in a harbourside mansion in Mossman, a holiday yacht in Port Stephens, and a leased Range Rover for his inspections. He hosted lavish maritime galas at the Sydney Opera House, his wife Sarah dazzling in nautical attire at charity events for ocean conservation, his daughter Mia rising as a navigator with a degree from the University of Tasmania, while I rebuilt quietly, starting a small charter service by 2015 from our garage. My voyages grew, fishing trips in Jervis Bay, eco-tours in Pittwater, who valued my skills, my reputation a quiet undercurrent in Sydney's maritime scene, passed along at yacht clubs and dockside cafes. But the wound deepened with every milestone of Commander Holt's success, his smug talks at the Royal Sydney Yacht Squadron, Sarah's Instagram posts from the Whitsundays, Mia's first officer role on a freighter, each a fresh wave. My parents, both gone by 2020, had believed his lies, their final years dimmed by his version of events, their calls filled with concern over my struggles. Luca, now a 12-year-old fascinated by model ships, wrestled with doubt, his early adventures shadowed by Commander Holt's influence, his questions about my work strained by his admiration for the man. Sam's unwavering support, his hand-stitched sails, his late-night shanties over cups of rum, his repairs of our rusty anchor, kept me afloat, his love a steady keel in the storm. The turning point came 4 years ago, in 2021, when the first cracks in Commander Holt's polished facade appeared. His fleet faced lawsuits over oil spills, sailors posted viral complaints on X about unsafe conditions, and a whistleblower exposed falsified maintenance logs in an ABC News expose. At 40, with my hands aching from years of hauling lines, I began my discreet investigation, contacting old deckhands over beer at pubs in Balmain. I'd meet them in the early evenings, my notebook a shield, listening to their tales of Commander Holt's decline, overworked crews, neglected repairs, a culture of fear, over plates of fish and chips and pale ale. Last month, on July 20th, 2025, I sat with Jack, a former deckhand who'd left in 2020, at a pub in Glebe, the hum of ferries a faint backdrop. His trembling hands passed me a USB drive. "He's sinking. Stolen routes. Fake logs. Pressure on us to hide leaks," he murmured, his voice thick with regret. "That shipping line was yours, Elena." My pulse raced. This was the evidence I'd waited for. On August 10th, 2025, I contacted Laura, a journalist with the Sydney Morning Herald who'd uncovered maritime scandals with a sharp eye, meeting her at her cluttered office in Surrey Hills. We pored over the USB, photos of my 2011 chart sketch, detailed logs of Commander Holt's theft, emails hinting at bribed inspectors. "This could dock him," Laura said, her voice a mix of excitement and caution. "But we need the right tide." On August 22nd, 2025, I dug deeper, turning our flat into a detective's lair. Amid charts and rope coils, I accessed public records online, my fingers stiff but resolute. At 10 a.m., I found it, a 2023 audit report buried in the NSW Maritime Authority archives, tied to my plan, now linked to a collision scandal that cost the company $300,000 in fines. My hands shook as I printed it, the past merging with the present in a surge of clarity. That evening, at 9:25 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time on September 2nd, 2025, I sat by my window, the Sydney skyline a soft glow, plotting my next move. The Australian Maritime Awards were on September 20th, a glittering event to mask Commander Holt's decline. I'd attend, not as the deck scrubber, but as his reckoning. What he didn't know was I transformed my pain into a course of justice, charted by 14 years of resilience. The 4 weeks leading to the awards were a meticulous navigation of strategy and subterfuge, my days running the charter service a facade for the revenge sailing in my mind. By August 25th, 2025, our flat, its walls lined with charts faded by salt air, its table cluttered with route drafts stained with coffee, its air tinged with the scent of tar and seaweed, transformed into a war room where every penciled adjustment and not check fueled my resolve. Laura and I met nightly, her recorder open on my wobbly table as we dissected the USB and audit reports, the soft clank of the anchor a rhythm to our planning. My 2011 Sustainable Shipping Plan, with its eco-sales and conservation focus, had won Commander Holt's grant, its success a mast of his rise, while my emission tweaks, solar panels I'd proposed, had been misused, leading to the 2023 scandal. Jack's data revealed a pattern: stolen routes from 2012, falsified logs in 2019, a cover-up of a 2021 engine failure hushed with inspector bribes, a fragile fleet on the brink. I contacted Angus, a retired captain who'd clashed with Commander Holt over a 2016 cargo dispute, his weathered voice joining us via a crackling Zoom call from his home in Newcastle. "This could revoke his license. Hit him mid-speech," he advised, his tone laced with old rivalries. I nodded, my plan a course plotted from 14 years of suppressed fury, each bearing a memory of lost commands, stolen credit, shattered trust. The awards, set for 7 p.m. on September 20th, 2025, at the Sydney Opera House, would be Commander Holt's flagship, a gathering of mariners, shipowners, media, and environmentalists, all drawn by the promise of prestige under the iconic sails. I'd pose as a retired sailor, my jacket swapped for a modest outfit with a hidden pocket, my movements slow with a cane to conceal my intent, my dark hair tied back with a bandana, a symbol of my enduring seamanship. My task was to deliver the evidence to Laura, who'd signal Angus's Maritime Board contacts at 8 p.m., time with Commander Holt's acceptance speech, ensuring maximum exposure. I secured an invitation through Luca, now a 12-year-old who'd impressed a judge's son at a sailing club, his email on August 28th, a laminated pass I clutched like a sextant, his note reading, "You're my captain, Mummy." He suspected nothing, his enthusiasm a tool I'd wield with care. Preparation was a rigorous watch, a blend of physical discipline and emotional steel. I practiced my shuffle daily along the Bondi Beach promenade, perfecting a weary gait and a warm, unassuming smile that masked my burning resolve, my cane tapping a rhythm of patience against the sand. I rehearsed lines, just here to honor maritime heritage, though each word carried the weight of Commander Holt's betrayal, Sam's steadfast love, and Luca's silent pride in my past. Physically, I checked rigging and plotted courses daily, my hands protesting, but each turn strengthened my will to stand tall that night. I revisited old mementos, chart sketches from 2011, a faded photo with Sam at a regatta, a whistle Luca decorated, a rejected grant proposal, each a spark in my fire. One night, I found a soaked log from the flood damage, its pages blurred, and wept, the lost course fueling my fury. I tracked Luca's life, his sailing lessons, his friendship with a mate named Ollie, hoping this act would secure his future free from Commander Holt's shadow. On September 17th, Commander Holt called, his tone smooth with false warmth. "Elena, the awards are a milestone. Bring Luca, let's chart a new course," he said, his voice oily but laced with condescension. I agreed, hiding my scheme. He didn't suspect I'd coordinated with Laura, who'd lined up Angus's contacts, or that I'd commissioned an outfit with a hidden pocket, its fabric a shield of my past honor. The outfit arrived on September 19th, tailored by a local seamstress from Maroubra, Mrs. Nguyen, who chatted about her garden, unaware of my mission. I tested the pocket, sliding the USB and awed inside, their weight a promise of justice. At 6:30 p.m. on September 20th, I arrived, the opera house alive with the clink of glasses and the murmur of excited mariners, the harbor glinting through the sails. Commander Holt spotted me near the entrance, smirking. "Elena, still scrubbing?" "Touching," he quipped. I nodded, my cane steady, my pocket ready. At 7:45 p.m., he began his speech, launching into a tale of his maritime legacy and unveiling a new shipping line echoing mine. I scanned the scene, Luca clapping awkwardly, Ollie beside him, media filming, Sarah sipping champagne with a smug grin, Mia adjusting her father's notes. At 7:58 p.m., as Commander Holt praised his vision, I edged toward Laura, my pulse a drumbeat. I slipped her the USB and awed it, whispering, "Now." She nodded, texting Angus. At 8:02 p.m., board members stormed in, badges glinting under the sail lights, shouting, "Investigation underway." Commander Holt's chart fell, his face paling as they seized his logbook. The awards ceremony exploded into a whirlwind of pandemonium, attendees scattering like startled gulls fleeing the Opera House's grand foyer, media cameras swiveling to capture every frame of the unfolding drama, Commander Holt's protests, drowned by the authoritative commands of board members that echoed off the iconic sails, the lights casting fractured beams across the scene. Luca stood stunned near a canopy table, Ollie's hand on his shoulder offering silent support, his eyes wide with shock as the truth emerged, while mariners murmured in clusters, their seafaring world rocked by the revelation. I stood tall, my outfit a badge of my hard-earned resolve forged over 14 years, my cane a symbol of strength that had carried me through the roughest seas, my heart pounding with a mix of 14 years of vindication and the bittersweet ache of a family nearly lost to Commander Holt's deceit that had cast a long shadow. Board members swarmed the stage, their dark suits a stark contrast to the venue's elegant decor of timber panels and glass, cuffing Commander Holt as he roared, "This is a mutiny, Elena, you'll pay!" his voice cracking with the desperation of a man watching his fleet sink. They read charges, plagiarism that stripped his awards, falsified logs that undermined his reputation, safety breaches that endangered crews. Each word a hammer blow to his legacy, the list growing with a $350,000 fine for unaccounted grants that funded his mansion, their voices steady as they recited the litany. Laura approached, her voice a lifeline amid the din of shouting and camera shutters. "They've got him, Elena. You've done it. His ship's wrecked," she said, her eyes alight with the thrill of the story. The media frenzy was immediate. Headlines like Holt's Maritime Meltdown and Sailor's 14-year revenge blazed across screens by 10 p.m., my name a murmur of awe in the chaos that swirled through the hall, microphones thrust toward me like anchors seeking a hold. Commander Holt turned to me, his face flushed with rage that mottled his once commanding features, sweat beading on his brow like spray on a deck, his naval uniform now rumpled as board members tightened their grip on his arms, his posture slumping under the weight of defeat. "You! After all this time, you petty little deck scrubber? You've destroyed my command!" he bellowed, his voice breaking with the desperation of a man whose course was lost, his hands shaking as he pointed at me with a trembling finger. I met his gaze, unflinching despite the tremor in my own hands that betrayed the adrenaline coursing through me, my voice clear and resonant with the strength of 14 years of silent suffering that had steeled my resolve. "You said I'd never captain the ship, Commander Holt, that I was only fit for scrubbing decks. I proved you wrong, with evidence that outlasts your lies, with grit that outran your schemes, with every tide I rode while you stole and faltered. This is my payback for me, for Luca whose future you shadowed, for every sailor you crushed, for every voyage you sank with your ego." He lunged, his fist raised in a futile gesture of defiance that spoke of his last grasp at control, but board members restrained him with firm hands, dragging him out as Sarah sobbed hysterically, her champagne flute slipping to shatter on the floor in a spray of glass, a symbol of her fallen status. Luca rushed to me, his voice breaking through the noise like a lifeline tossed into a stormy sea. "Mummy, I didn't know. I'm sorry for looking up to him," he said, tears streaking his face as he wrapped his arms around me, the first embrace in months that mended a rift I'd feared growing. I hugged him back, the warmth of his body against mine a balm to the wounds of the past, Ollie nodding in support with a quiet smile, a bridge to a future reclaimed from the waves of my past. The crowd buzzed with reporters, their microphones thrust toward me like buoys seeking a signal, but I turned away, my victory a private voyage burning bright within, a course no scandal could sink. The fallout was swift and merciless, a storm that wrecked the remnants of Commander Holt's maritime empire. Board members suspended him from Horizon Shipping, seizing vessels in Darling Harbor and warehouses in Port Botany where charts sat idle, records from maintenance logs hauled away in crates, freezing his personal accounts that held the profits of his deceit, halting his galas across the Pacific where he'd once captained, while inspectors raided his Mossman mansion for evidence of fraud, uncovering a safe with falsified certificates. His fleet collapsed like a ship on the rocks, his reputation tarnished beyond repair, shipping lines distancing themselves with press releases, his name a cautionary tale whispered in ports from Brisbane to Perth, a fallen commander replaced by silence. The media dug deeper, uncovering a $150,000 slush fund for bribed inspectors that funded his Port Stephens yacht and Sarah's wardrobe, a detail that sent shockwaves through the Australian maritime sector and prompted a federal inquiry, the scandal dominating morning news. Luca reconciled fully, joining me in learning navigation for our flat, while Sam and I planned a seaside getaway to a cottage we'd finally saved for, the scent of salt a promise of peace. Sarah vanished from gala circuits, her social circle dissolving like a receding tide, and Mia, Commander Holt's daughter, distanced herself, seeking a navigation role under a new mentor to escape the taint. I didn't gloat. My goal was justice, not destruction, a balance I'd learned from years of weathering storms. But the sight of Commander Holt's fall brought a profound peace that filled the hollow left by his words, a quiet satisfaction that settled in my soul like a well-anchored ship. That night, at 9:25 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time on September 2nd, 2025, I sat with a cup of rum that glowed amber in the lamplight, the news confirming his suspension on a muted TV, a letter from Commander Holt in hand, its envelope creased from my grip. Elena, I was wrong. Help me. It pleaded, his handwriting shaky with the defeat that had finally overtaken him, the ink smudged as if by tears of regret. I didn't reply, the past too raw, my strength too hard-won to soften now, the paper crumpling in my fist as I set it aside to focus on the horizon ahead. Months later, his hearing began in a courtroom in Sydney Downing Centre, board members and inspectors wielding my evidence with the precision of a ship's compass, Jack's testimony a damning narrative of maritime corruption, and Angus's audit records a final log, the gallery filled with former sailors who nodded in silent support, their oilskins traded for suits. I attended the first day, my presence a silent testament to my journey from deckhand to this moment, seated beside Luca and Sam, whose hand I held tightly, and watched Commander Holt's defense crumble under the weight of truth, dozens of former crew stepping forward with tales of pressure and theft, their voices a chorus of validation that echoed through the room. The judge, a stern jurist with a passion for sailing and a gavel that rang like a foghorn, ordered a full investigation, hinting at a potential ban from command and fines that loomed like a squall, his ruling a vindication of my 14-year wait. Luca and I launched Tora Sea Ventures, restoring family pride with charter trips, hiring Jack as a mate whose expertise bridged my past and present, while Sam retired from fishing to teach knot tying to kids, his hands finding new purpose in lines. I visited the MV Horizon once, its deck silent with the absence of Commander Holt's voice, its wheel a memory of my youth, a monument to his greed and my redemption that stood tall in my heart. My revenge, 14 years in the making, was not just justice served with a swell of spite, it was my rebirth, a command reclaimed from the wreckage of his sabotage, a testament to the resilience I'd always carried within, a voyage that sailed stronger with each wave I rode.